Hey there, neighbors and naysayers. June the 2nd, 2025. Clint Finney again as the racing lambs come up to me. I wanted to take a picture of, so this is what I just turned. Around 40 ewes and babies, more coming all the time. I keep thinking we're almost done, and then we're not. And you hear them calling for their moms. This goes on for about 10 minutes. And then the mothers come back and get them. And then it's all quiet again. Unless I turn this back fence on, and then it's hours because they don't want to go through the back fence, of course. So I've learned not to turn the back fence on, just leave it up. Around here, electric's optional a lot of times. We went about 10 days without having electricity on the cows. And the sheep, as long as the front fence is hot, I'm good. And the side fences here, keeping weaned calves away from cows. But just wanted to show you mob grazing at its best. Now this is where they just walked through all of them. I had my dog food pan I found in the field while I was letting the ewe in the other end. So again, as always, there's a frost-free trough with that ewe standing. This is 263 feet wide, and we're giving them two and a half posts, which I gotta get my thinking cap on here. 32, 64, around 80 feet per day. It don't seem like 80, but that's what it is. So this is what they go in, and this is what it looks like 24 hours later. Now, we know it isn't all eaten. I mean, I'm stepping on a sponge here. It's all mashed down. And you know, you can see this as a waste. But if you see it as a waste, go back and watch my last video where we grew a couple inches of topsoil over top of a fence post that I dropped, God knows when. And that'll tell you what we're doing here. So we just had a pasture walk. It was an awesome pasture walk up at Adamantina Costarella's here this last Thursday. And I really don't have time to take a video today, but I'm just so happy with the way things turned out then and what we see now. I said today at work, this is my favorite time of year. Not because I got a ton of grass, but it is because I got a ton of grass. But because, you know, it don't matter. I'm gonna be around in 90 days. I can waste as much as I want. I'm not worried about it, not stressed about it. You know, I keep telling myself, I'm giving them 80 foot. I give them 90 foot or 100 foot as long as they're gonna do this, as long as they're gonna mash it down. I don't care. It's gonna be forever before I get all the way around the farm. And that's awesome when you can feel like that, because then when you get to fall, boy, you're really trying to ratchet down and save grass. And I'm always a proponent of, there's no such thing as wasting grass. And it's a good thing, because I'm sure pounding a whole lot of it into the ground. But this is my theory on this, and I explained this the other day. I guess I'll just show the cows. So the cows are just over there. That's 263 feet plus about 80. We just weaned these calves, what, 4 weeks ago? And there's their mamas right there, and they're all calving. So there's 3 of them that have calved. We're waiting on Ethan's show heifer to calve. And we went to twice a day moves. Right there where those cows are standing, to your left is the opening, and then to the right you can see the reel hanging on the fence. That's how much 18 cows plus 12 fat steers are getting for a 12-hour period. And it needs to be a little bigger. I just erred, and it's a little small, but it's okay. They're not overgrazing it, so it's fine. And they're not doing as good a job. I mean, they call it a sheep's foot roller for a reason. Sheep are way better at mashing it down. The problem is holding sheep tight. The cows, it's really easy to hold them tight, but it's harder to get them to mash it down. And we could ratchet them down a little tighter and get them to pound it a little harder, but I don't want to. It doesn't matter. I meant to, before I clicked on, I meant to see how many acres I'm using a day, but it ain't much. I mean, it's going to be a long time before I get around the farm. I don't know. I guess, darn, I should have done that. I mean, anybody's following along at home can figure it out. Here, we'll have 100 acres of grass, and they're getting 80 by 263 times 2 basically a day. So 160 by 263 a day. And what's that work out to? About an acre, something like that. I mean, that's just rough math, but if an acre is 210 by 210, then 160 by 263 sounds like about an acre to me. And there's 104 acres of grass here to go around. So tell me how many days that's going to be. Now, I hope it don't take that long. I mean, we'll go ahead and we'll start pounding stuff, and as this dries down, it's easier to trample, and so we get a little bigger because it's easier. Right now it's really springy and hard to trample. Actually, right now it's really easy to trample. It gets harder as it dries down, and then when it really dries down, it gets really easy. Right now it's so heavy and wet at times that it's easy to get it to trample. Other points here, you know, this is selective grazing, but we're also getting the same effect we feel that you get from non-selective grazing, only we still have a mat of forage covering the soil and keeping it cool and keeping it wet. That's the difference here. I'm building soil. Now, is this going to turn into organic matter as thick as the mat I just laid down? Hell no, it ain't. It's all going to break down. But my real theory here is, and for those of you who don't know, my real interest in this world is soil fertility and now soil health. I've learned to get into soil health. Soil fertility was my interest before. If there's one thing I was good at in the world, it was showing pigs and soil fertility. And I have learned to unlearn almost everything I learned from the university. There's some points I can take, some points I can't. And so now I know that I know way less than I used to know, but I'm trying. I'm doing the best that I know how today. My theory here is I don't need this grass. I could leave it stand. We could make them eat everything. It would take us forever to go around. That's fine. And that did work, other than we got, you heard me say it a million times, horse nettle and ironweed. This way we don't get horse nettle and ironweed. And my theory here is, it's not that I'm building soil with this much. I mean, this breaks down and some of it turns into organic matter. My theory here is I captured all this soil fertility that we got in the spring. We always get that burst of growth in the spring. And that's soil, in my mind, that's soil fertility that the soil organisms have worked out over the wintertime. And the plant takes advantage of it and grows like crazy. And then once that's used up, then we see that fall kind of dead spot, and then the spring or the fall bump, we see that summer slump. It's partly because of heat and water too, but that doesn't help. So my theory is, let's mash all this grass down and get back to where we're rotating every 30 days or 40 days or 50 days. And in the meantime, this is all going to break down and become the soil fertility that's going to feed the plants next year and the year after and the year after that. We're turning this into organic soil nutrients. And next year, when the spring flush comes up, it's not only last year's or that 1 year's spring flush, it's last year's spring flush used up in it. And I couldn't tell you how many years I've been doing this. A long time. Been mob grazing for a long time. I feel like I just got it right, though, in the past 4 or 5 years, the way I really want it to be. And I don't know that this is it. It could be the bale grazing, it could be the unrolling the hay, it could be a lot of things. But I feel like I'm just now starting to see it being right. And that's good information for those of you. Don't quit. It takes 4 or 5 years. You're not going to be any worse in the 4 or 5 years you try it than you were before. But boy, when that 4th or 5th or 6th year hits and you start to really see a change, just like no-till farming takes forever for it to really show a change. But once it does, you can't go backwards. You got to keep going. You don't know how far you've come until you turn around. You know, it's too bad when you quit too early. And so that's what we do here. I'm just trying to pack this down, cover the soil, get it to grow. And you really can't see in the last 4 days any growth coming up, but it will. And really, because it's June 2nd, we'll probably mob graze this again one more time, because it'll be before the longest day of the year and it'll still be trying to make seed head. The longest day of the year has a lot to do with our forage growth, and it's going to try to make seed head until that longest day. And then once that longest day comes and the plant says, well, I didn't reproduce, or even if I did, now it's just time to survive the winter and live to reproduce again next year. So until that longest day of the year, it's still going to try to make seed head. So We try to get everything mob grazed, mashed down by, I'd love to be by the 21st, but it ain't gonna happen. By the 4th of July, that would be preferable, but it's usually around the 20th of July. The other part of this that all fits in like a glove is the longer this stuff stands in this big tall seed head mode, the less growth I'm getting from it. So I want to get it as fast as I possibly can, because these are the growing days. It's not going to grow as much in July and August, even though I got this mat here. And it does grow better because I have this mat here, but it's not going to grow as much in July and August as it does now. And the faster I can get this blazed off, the better off I am. And I guess maybe my last point, I know I'm getting long here, but my last point is, I mentioned it last time, and I'm going to continue to work on this. I need to work on the math, but you know, we typically run 25, 30 head here, and I normally don't talk numbers. I don't want you to think that I'm not important because I don't have enough, or that I'm too big for those of you that don't have that many. This is Eastern Ohio. I work another job. I've got this many cows. I've got ewes. I've got sows and fat hogs, and a job 40 hours a week. We're down 75. We're down to 75% of the cow herd as we were because of the drought, because we did all the things and did it right. I wonder now, we were regularly getting, let's say, 250 days of grazing. Is 75%, sounds like to me 75% is enough. If we do it right, we aren't going to have to feed much hay, maybe 30, 60 days. It's hay making time here. Everybody's making hay. It's too wet. The ground's too wet. It's too cold. It froze last night. I don't know how these people are going to get it dry. They're not feeding cows. They're feeding cows with it, and the cows aren't getting any nutrition out of it because it's all molded. I don't, and they get everybody all wound up, and it drives me insane every year when we get to this time of year, because farmers just can't wait. Like, I know the quality ain't getting no better, but it ain't gonna get any better if it molds in the bale. But anyway, my theory here is, wow, I finally got this to where we can make this a closed loop system. And I'm not ready to make any hay yet on this farm, that is. But we're getting to a point where we can see our way clear to make some of this for hay. I mean, it's very easy for me to say, okay, right now I'm using 1 acre a day. I want to be done with this in, let's say, 40 days. So save 40 acres of this and then go mow the rest of the farm, which admittedly would be 40 acres, let's say. But now I got 40 acres of hay I made to feed through the 30 to 60 days I'm gonna have to feed hay, and then I got stockpile grass to feed through the rest of the year. That's a closed loop system. That is a regenerative system. That is the way we're gonna build soil. That's the way we're gonna make money. That's where everything fits together. I ought to write a book. The problem with writing a book is it's only going to be good for Eastern Ohio or east of the Mississippi and north of the Mason-Dixon. I don't know, not really north of the Mason-Dixon, but north of Tennessee anyway. It's not going to be that great. But then I was thinking about this today. You know, that's a quarter of the U.S. population right there at least. So that's a whole lot of people. I don't know that I'm saying anything that hasn't been said before, but I hope you stuck with me. I hope I had some good thoughts. This is something we're going to kind of keep on chewing on all summer. With that, I'll say we'll see you next time.